Well, thank you all very much for coming today. We are continuing our talks on Buddhism 101, and particular with the jewel ornament of liberation. And today we are recording this particular session because we are talking about the Four Noble Truths. And our normal Thursday evening meeting, the recording did not come out properly. So we have this second meeting on Sundays where we do practice. And so today we're going to, for our practice, for our talk today, we'll be talking about the Four Noble Truths. So this will be on our YouTube channel. So thank you very much. So Milarepa is with us today. This is Milarepa, my good friend, who is with us, and he may have questions, and we can have conversation. So, so if we can, we're going to begin with our opening prayers. So if you can go to your red book and come to the opening prayers. And Milarepa, would you like to recite the opening prayers in English, and I'll recite in the Tibet?
Of course.
Thank you.
All Mother Sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the stative, unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All Mother Sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the stative, unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Dagla dangwar je pedra no pa je pege. Tarpa dang tam shaken pe bar du jo par je pa tam shaki so je pe. Manam kadam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang dan. Dug now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dag pa zog pe zhang zhu brin po she to pa ja.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Deshe du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring de song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du Lunagi samge wala ko. Short refuge prayer.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Sangye chodang soki chonam la Shangju badu dagni kapsuchi Dagi jinsoki pe sanamgi Drola panchir sangye jupasho. For
May
my
all mother May all Mother Senshin beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all Mother Senshin beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Manam kadam yam pesem chantam she dewadang dewe gudang dempa jorchi Dugnal dang dunal gi gudang drawa jorchi Dugnal me pe de wa dang mi dra wa jorchi Ne ring jak dang ni dang dra we Tang nam la ne pa jorchi. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So now we're going to go to page 26 in our booklet, in our the daily practice prayers and guides. So page 26 is the Four Noble Truths. So the Buddha, after he attained enlightenment, traveled to Sarnath from Bodh Gaya, where he attained enlightenment, and he walked, and he was followed by his 5 spiritual friends who had come with him from the forest to the Gaya region and began to enter into their 6 years of retreat and as ascetics. The Buddha left that site and after 6 years and came down into the valley where he attained enlightenment, where he sat underneath of the Bodhi tree, the enlightenment tree, and he attained enlightenment. After that, he met up with his 5 friends again. They recognized that he had become Buddha, and they beseeched him to teach them what it is to be Buddha, what it is to be enlightened. And so for 49 days he traveled about, being followed by his 5 friends. And finally they reached to the far side of Varanasi in India. And there the Buddha sat down underneath a sal tree and with his 5 friends. And he said, now I'm going to teach you the Dharma. I'm going to teach you the first wheel of the Dharma, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the 4 Noble Truths. So the first of the truths is that all existence has suffering. The second is that the cause of suffering is desire. The third is the cessation of suffering is unattachment. And the fourth is the Eightfold Path, the means for ending suffering. So, beginning with all existence has suffering, the first noble truth, we realize that everything that we are involved in has suffering in it. We are in a dualistic nature. We live understanding very little. We are in a phenomenal world where we do not know many, many things. Our problem with that is that we think we can know. We think we know. And we develop all kinds of attachments and aversions towards those things that seem important to us, that we need to be able to know, that we need to be able to control, and so on. The only thing that we really need to control is our own mind. Everything else is something that may not be able to be controlled. So we need to be able to recognize the things that cause our suffering, that lead us to suffering, that lead us to misunderstanding. So the suffering has many different ways of looking at it. Sentient beings have suffering. Sentient beings are born, they get sick and get injured during their lifetime, they get old and their body becomes decrepit and their mind becomes weak, their intelligence becomes weaker, and their senses become weaker, and so on, in old age. And then finally, sentient beings die. Their physical body goes away, it dies, it cannot last forever. And with it goes the intellect, the brain. So all the things that we think we know, all the things that we have memories of, all the things that we cherish and so on are gone. But our spirit, our physical, our spiritual body, our true nature remains indestructible, does not die. It is everlasting. So this all existence has suffering, meaning that all sentient beings, all this world, all this phenomenal nature has a birth, has injury and sickness, has old age, and has death. Human beings have additionally 4 other sufferings to identify as human beings. The first is human beings don't always get what they want, and they suffer because of that, whether it's something material, whether it's something like a nice home, whether it's something like nice clothes, if it's something like a nice car, relationships. Human beings don't always get what they want, and when they don't get what they want, they suffer. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe they have a love that they want to be with, and they can't because of circumstances that they have to be out of town or something like that. Maybe they get that love. Maybe they get that car that they've been wanting. Maybe they get that house that they've been cherishing and so on. And then they find that they have to take care of it. They have to work for it. They have to maintain it. They have to spend money on it. They have to spend time on it and so on. So they don't get what they want, but then when they do get what they want, they find that it may be more trouble than they thought it was going to be. So they suffer from getting what they want, but now they have to take care of it. Now there's more expenses. Now there's insurance that they have to purchase. All different kinds of things have to happen and so on like that. So that happens, and those are 2 sufferings that are uniquely human beings. Now there's also a suffering where we are not with the ones we love. We want to be with our friends, we want to be with our family, but the circumstances are that we can't be, and we're missing our friends, we're missing our family, we're missing our loves, our children, and so on like that. So when we're not with the ones we love, we suffer. But then sometimes we are with beings, we have to be with beings that we don't like, that we don't care for. Maybe it's a work situation. Maybe we have to go on a convention. Maybe we have to go out of town. Maybe we get invited to a special kind of a party or something like that, or a convention, some kind of meeting that's with a whole bunch of people, and we don't like those people, and they don't seem to like us very much, and we feel very lonely, beside the point that we're with all these people. So just being with a bunch of people doesn't always mean that we're going to be happy. So there's suffering, although that we're with all these people. So these four sufferings are the suffering of not getting what you want, of getting what you want, but now you have to take care of it, not being with the ones you love, but then being with the ones that you don't care for and having to be with them. So maybe it's, like I said, at a party or something like that, or it's at a convention. So we have a miserable time of being with those folks, being with those people in that situation. So there are also three ways of looking at suffering. There is the all-pervading suffering, there is the suffering of change, and there is the suffering of suffering itself. So the suffering of suffering is all the everyday things that we need to go through. We need to get up in the morning, we need to take care of ourselves, we need to eat, we need to do all these things, we need to get dressed, we need to get out, we need to go to our work, whatever that is, we need to see our family, whatever that is, and so on. We need to do all these things that we do as a human being. We go through the sufferings of hatred, we go through the sufferings of desire, we go through the sufferings of ignorance, we go through the sufferings of jealousy and the sufferings of greed, and all the composite emotions that come as a result of all of that. So our suffering has many different ways in which it manifests. So the suffering of that suffering, of having to go through and endure all of that for our entire lives, is the suffering of suffering. So all beings have to go through that. It doesn't mean that everything that we do, that every single thing that we do is suffering. There is happiness. But that happiness at some point ends. That happiness sometimes changes. Our body changes, our work changes, we get older and so on like that. So things do not last forever. Things are not permanent. They're impermanent. So all this impermanence, all this change and everything causes us suffering. So we're going through the suffering of change. Things do not stay the way that we might like them to be. Or maybe it's that we've gotten used to things in a certain way and we get comfortable with that. It may not be perfect. It may not be what we would want for ourselves all the time, but nevertheless, we get comfortable with it. But then that changes. And then we have to change our lives. We have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we behave and so on, to be able to cope with those changes. So that's the suffering of change. And then the all-pervading suffering is an awareness that comes from those who have been able to transcend their everyday experiences. People who have been able to recognize that there are things that are happening all around us that require a great deal of effort by a great many other people and so on. An example of this might be recognizing that you want to have a table, and the table's made out of wood, and the wood comes from a tree. So the tree has to be cut down. The tree is a home to many beings. Many animals live in the tree, many insects live in the tree, and the tree provides food for other animals that don't live in the tree but are running around in the forest and the woods and so on like that. And now we want that tree for the wood, so we cut down the tree, so we're actually taking away the food source and the home, the shelter for those beings in the forest. And now they have to go and they are suffering. Then the people that cut down that tree have to carry that tree from where they are to the sawmill. So in the process of doing that, they have to drag the tree, they have to hold the tree, they have to carry the tree, it's very heavy, and so on. And sometimes they hurt themselves in the process of taking that tree, cutting that tree down and taking that tree to the sawmill. Or maybe once they get to the sawmill, they have an accident and they cut themselves, or something happens when they're working on the tree to now make it, cut it down so that they can make a table out of that. So things happen like that. So there's suffering in that situation. Then they get the tree and they cut down the wood, then they got to transport the wood, they got to stack it, the wood has to dry and so on. It goes through all this work that has to happen and everything. And then the wood then has to go to a wood shop, and the carpenters there have to further cut the tree to shape it and put it all together and so on. And maybe they're using glues and chemicals and things like that, paints and so on, that are very toxic, that can hurt you, and if you breathe them in for too long a period and so on like that. So there's many things that goes into that table. And an educated person recognizes that, realizes that. So they see all these objects all around them, and they see all the suffering that had to go, that had to happen in the process of providing those materials. So whether it's a table or it's a house or it's a car, all these different component parts are made up by workers who have to make all these things happen, and other beings have to suffer, have to give up their attachment to those things, their shelter for those things, and so on like that. So this all-pervading suffering is is what penetrates us all, penetrates this phenomenal nature, and we are caught up in the attachments and the aversions of this phenomenal nature. So it's the all-pervading suffering that comes through everything that we see, hear, touch, feel, taste, and so on like that. So these are the three sufferings. So we see that all existence has suffering, whether we're insects, whether we're different kinds of animals, whether we're human beings. So we have this suffering. The cause of the suffering now is desire. The very nature that we want to have this life, that we want to have this body, that we feel that we need to have this, that through this we experience so many things. It's important to us. This is what we recognize. We wanted this life. We wanted to have this life. So now we have this life and we have this suffering. So this desire is a basic grasping that we want things in this life. Now that we've got this life, we've got this body, now we want all the other things. We want the clothing, we want the jobs that we can have, we want the money, we want the possessions, we want the relationships, we want all these things, and we cling on to these. We hold on to these things because this is how we shape our identity, who it is that we are, that because we have these things, they all indicate of what our position is, whether we're a man or a woman, whether we're rich or we're poor, whether we're young or we're old, all these different attributes and so on that we hold on to, that we want to have these identity indicators and so on. But also along with this desire, we have hatred. If we, other people may not have these things, and maybe we don't like those people and so on. We develop hatreds. Maybe there's delusions that we create for ourselves, misconceptions. There's greediness that we create, that we want more of these things. There is jealousy that if we don't have these things but others do, we want these things. So all this suffering is being caused by these 5 root poisons that all together make up many, many, many different emotions. And our emotions are guiding us in this direction and that direction, making us want to do this, making us want to do that, and so on. And we do that because it gives us a sense of identity, it gives us a sense of personal power, and so on. So we need to recognize that the cause of suffering is our desire, is our hatred, is our ignorance, is our delusion, is our greediness, is our jealousies, our envy, and so on. So we need to understand that. This is what causes us to have all this suffering, all this confusion in our lives. So that was the second of the Noble Truths. The third of the Noble Truths is that the cessation of suffering is unattachment. So the cessation is the cutting off, is the stopping of the suffering by cutting off the roots of the causes, the roots of the 5 poisons that make up all these different emotions and so on. If we can stop having those emotions, then we can start being able to enjoy our lives more and not have this suffering and not want to have this life in the first place. It wouldn't be necessary to have this life of dualistic nature that inherently has all these problems with it. So the cessation of suffering is the unattachment. I don't need this. I don't want that. I'm not going to take that job. I'm not going to engage in this relationship. All these different things, we have to make a choice to say, I'm not going to do these things. The cessation of suffering is unattachment. I'm not going to hold on to these things. If we do hold on to these things, we are human beings, we do need these things and so on, but we treat them as something that is temporarily necessary. We don't see them as permanent. We don't see them as something that we have to have. We don't see them as completely necessary for ourselves, for our own identity. So we treat them as tools. We treat them as just something that we need temporarily, but we're not going to hold on to it. We're going to treat it all very lightly, very, very simply, very unaffectedly, and so on like that. So there's much more to all of this, and we need to be able to study these 4 Noble Truths to be able to understand all the ways in which this all works together. But this right now is an introduction to the 4 Noble Truths that are speaking about suffering. Suffering is the result of having this life. This is what the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, is designed to be able to help us to see, to be able to give us the time and the method to be able to examine our lives, to be able to see that all life has suffering in it, to see that the cause of the suffering is our desire, our attachment to want these things, and that the cessation, the stopping of the suffering, is the unattachment, is the being able to release, to let go of all these things that we hold to be so important in our lives and so on. And ultimately, when we come to the period of time when we are going to pass away, when we are going to drop our body, that we allow our body to be released. We're not holding on to the body. We're not trying to have another rebirth. And if we do, it will be a rebirth that is more unattached. It will have more awareness to it. It'll have more wisdom and compassion to it than this life that we're in now. We then take whatever work we've been able to accomplish, we take with us into the next life and so on. So, how do we do that? That's a very complicated process to take all the work that we've developed in this life to be able to take it with us into a next life and so on. So that brings us to the fourth noble truth. And the fourth noble truth is the Eightfold Path. This is the means for ending suffering. So, as we are human beings, we have gone through many, many, many changes. We were born, we went through our early childhood years when we went to grammar school, elementary schools, learning how to read and write and so on like that, and how to behave properly and all those things. And we go through many changes. And then we become a teenager. And then we spend more time away from home, away from our parents. We're developing different kind of relationships. We're getting jobs. We're doing work and so on. And so we're going through lots of changes then. And then we go into our 20s, our 20 years, 21, 22, 23, etc. And we're getting jobs now. Maybe we're starting families. We're going through more and more changes. We're buying more expensive things. We're maybe buying a house, maybe buying cars, buying better clothes, doing all these different things. And then we go through the 20s, then we go through the 30s. Now we've got children, now we got career jobs that we're doing and so on. And then we go into the 40 years period, and we're going through more changes in the 50s and the 60s. So we see that we're going through these changes like it's going around wheels and so on, and we're doing this and so on. And each time we go through these changes, there is a birth, of that we are coming into this time of our lives, and then we're having these experiences, and then there is something that is like we become educated or we have an experience that changes us. So in a way, we are reborn because of this change that we've gone through. Then we go through another period where we are passing into a new change, into a new kind of a life, and so on. So we take that change with us. So even though we've had this one life, we still have this one face, we still have this one body through our lives and so on, we've gone through different phases. We've gone through different periods of our lives. So in a figurative way, as a metaphor, we can say that we've had many births and we've had many deaths. We've had, and in between, we've had lifetimes of doing things and so on. So this Eightfold Path is a way of being able to evaluate what it is that we are doing in each of those stages of our lives. So we say that there is this Eightfold Path. So there is the right view of this life. There is the right resolve of this life. There is the right speech. There is the right conduct. There is the right livelihood. There is the right effort. There is the right mindfulness. And there is the right concentration. So these are this is the Eightfold Path. So now to understand this a little bit more, we say that the right view, the first is that there is the freedom of enlightenment, that we are human beings, we are born into this world of confusion, this world of suffering, although there is happiness, but it's temporary happiness, and the suffering is temporary also. But how to manage this, how to endure, how to move through this, is to recognize that the one thing that everybody, all beings want, whether they're human beings, they're animal beings, or they're insect beings, whatever these beings, all beings want to be free. If you take any of these beings, you take insects, you take animals, you take human beings, and you try to imprison them, if you put insects in a jar, if you put animals in a cage, if you put human beings in their everyday life, it's like being in prison. You know, they say, oh my goodness, I got this work, I got this job and everything, and I got to get up every day and I got to go to do this and everything. And I just feel like I'm in prison. I feel like the people that I work for are not very pleasant. I don't like being there, but this is my work. This is what I chose to do. So actually, we put ourselves in that prison. We put animals in cages, we put bugs in jars and things like that, and we can see that they are struggling to get out. They are trying to be free of their imprisonment. And we as human beings are trying to be free of our imprisonment. But we're so locked in, we're so blinded, we're so deluded that we think that this is the way we have to be. And so we endure this imprisonment of this life, of this body, and think that it is pleasurable. It's a misconception, you know. Not that we should be miserable all the time, but we want to be free. And to be free means to recognize that we have a physical body, we have an intellectual mind, but we also have a spiritual heart, that we have a true nature that is free, that is freedom. It is in this body, and we need to be able to allow that spiritual nature, that true nature, to be able to come out and to be able to balance our physical body and our intellectual mind. So we need to release that freedom. We need to remove those obstacles that are blocking us up, thinking that this is the only way that we can be. But we can be free people still as human beings. We can be complete human beings. We have our physical body, we have our intellectual mind, and we use them as tools in order that we may enjoy with our heart, that we enjoy other people, we enjoy this life, we enjoy this world, and so on like that. So this right view of freedom is the view of enlightenment, the view of liberation from suffering, and that we can choose this for ourselves in this life. We can attain, we can achieve the freedom in this life. We can achieve Buddhahood in this life. So this is the first of the Eightfold Path. The second of the Eightfold Path is right resolve. And what this is, the perseverance for this liberation, the perseverance, the diligence to work for this freedom, for this enlightenment. And this resolve that I am going to do this. No matter what obstacles come to me, I am going to understand what are the causes of those obstacles. I'm going to take responsibility for being in those situations that I have allowed myself to get into this situation. I'm born as a human being and so on. I take responsibility for that. And I take responsibility for my being able to release myself from the suffering that I have and so on, to be able to open up my true nature, that freedom that I talked about just a moment ago. So as we build this resolve to do that, things are still happening to us. Things that we didn't expect, or things that we knew were going to happen, but we need to protect ourselves. So this resolve of constantly being able to evaluate and constantly being able to solve problems that come to us in our lives becomes our protection. So this protection is like an umbrella. The umbrella that you have that protects you from the rain, or maybe protects you from the harsh sunlight. So this is a method by which we can visualize how this resolve works. It actually is a protection for us, that we don't get further, deeper into more and more and more suffering. So then, the next of the Eightfold Path is the right speech. The fundamental thing that we are doing is actualizing our thoughts. And our thoughts are actualized by our activities, the things that we do with our hands, the places we go, the things we do, and the things that we say, the things that we think, the things that we write, and so on like that. So if right speech, if we're always speaking the truth, even when we don't know, we say we don't know, rather than trying to make up some kind of a story, some kind of an idea that supports what we think it should be, but might be in great error, and then we start living a lie. Then we start living confusion and so on. And we're lying about this, we're lying about that, we're lying about something else and so on. And all these things, and our life gets very complicated, because we got to remember all these lies that we've told other beings and that we've told ourselves. So we always need to be able to pronounce the truth. We always need to speak the truth. This way it simplifies our life. It frees us from all these different wrong views, wrong attitudes, wrong activities, and so on. It simplifies our life. So we always speak the truth. If we don't know something, then we just simply say, I don't know. And maybe I need to educate myself as to what it is that I don't know and I think I need to know. So I go to school, I get a book, I talk to somebody, I ask a teacher. There's many different ways in which we can educate ourselves. And then maybe we learn something, and then we can use that in our conversation. We can use that in our activities to speak the truth, to have the right speech. So we can do that. We may find out that for every time we ask a question, there's many more questions, and that there's this point of recognizing as a human being, we have limited ability to be able to understand all of what is happening around us, and that all that we can really do is resolve ourselves to be able to say, well, I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not to hurt anything. I'm not to cause any suffering. So I'm just going to be peace. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to be enjoy what I can, and not get myself into a situation where I have to begin to lie to myself, or lie to lie to other beings as to what I am, what is going on around us. So to have the right speech is very, very important, to be able to always keep ourselves free of wrong view, of wrong expression, wrong activities. So now the next thing is to have the right conduct. So now we are in relationships, we have jobs, we are going out into the world doing different things, we're traveling and so on, and we're always going to behave in a proper way. The Buddha taught that first we do no evil, do no harm, do not harm beings, do only good deeds. Do only good things for yourself and for other people and for the earth and for the world. Do only good things. And um, and uh, and be of benefit to all beings. Whatever we do, to be of benefit that is going to help other beings. It helps us by helping other beings and so on. If we can help, be able to sustain the earth, to not cause harm to the earth and so on, not to cause harm to relationships and so on like that. So all these things, so these three things, do no harm, do only good deeds, and be of benefit to all beings. Those are the three fundamental precepts that were taught by Buddha. So Buddha is all within ourselves. So when we recognize these things, we say, yes, these things make such sense to us, and this is what allows us all to be able to live a life as Buddha, as an awakened being. We have that Buddha nature within ourselves, and it's blocked up by all the confusion, all the negativities, all the lies, all these misconceptions and everything that we have blocked ourselves up with, that is causing us to feel imprisoned in this physical body, in this life. So by speaking the truth, by having good conduct, by doing these things, we're freeing ourselves from this imprisonment, and we can move about doing things much more happily and of benefit for all beings. So this conduct, so whether we're in our jobs, whether we're traveling, whatever, that we're treating all beings, we're treating the earth, we're treating all these different possessions and so on with respect and honor, and so that we can keep them for a very long time and be able to enjoy the results of having those things. So we're behaving with a purity. We're behaving with a sense of not causing these things any harm in any way. This is what we're trying to do. So a very practical thing is, you have your car, you have your automobile, whatever, and to keep it in good condition, to make sure that it's getting, it's going to the shop and it's getting the oil properly changed and it's getting the proper gasoline, and you keep the car clean and so on like that. And when something is not working properly, you take it to the expert to get it repaired, get it, and so on like that. So we do that with our body. If we're not feeling well, we go to the doctor. If the doctor suggests you take this medicine, or you go to the hospital to get something taken care of, you do these things. And what you find is that you're releasing yourself from having to have to suffer from illnesses and things like that. We exercise properly, so as we get older, we maintain our strength. All these different things, we're behaving with purity. We're having respect for our body. We're having respect for our relationships. We're having respect for our jobs and so on like that. So those are the first four of the Eightfold Path. So now, the fifth one is to have the right livelihood. And the right livelihood means a connection to all different kinds of endeavors, all different kinds of things, activities that human beings engage in. So if you have a particular talent to be able to do something, let's say, for instance, you're a carpenter, that you're very good at being able to build things out of wood and so on like that, that's wonderful. You can build houses, you can build furniture, you can build buildings, you can do so many different things as a carpenter, and you're earning money and so on like that. And then you can buy other things that you need to do that other people are providing. So as a carpenter, you focus on that work. But then there's other people who do other things for you. Maybe there's people who grow food for us. Maybe there's people who drive the trucks to bring the food from the farms into the village or the town where you live to the stores so you can buy the food. Maybe it's the truck drivers who are driving the trucks to bring the products that are building your house, that are building your furniture and so on like that. They are providing a service, and we pay them for that. We have respect for that and so on. So all these different jobs that we're doing, we can't do them all. We do what we are good at, and then other people do other things, and then we exchange our jobs with them, the results of our jobs. And maybe we're using the money that we get by building the house or whatever, we buy those other products, those other services and so on. So we use money as that currency to be able to do that. But we're all connected to all these endeavors, and we have respect for each other doing these jobs. And some of these jobs are very unpleasant. You know, even being a carpenter, for somebody who might be a very good musician and makes their money, makes their life being a musician, they have to take very good care of their hands. So for them to be a carpenter may be a very dangerous thing, because, you know, carpenters sometimes hurt their hands and so on, and that would be very damaging for a musician who probably couldn't play music in the same way that they did before. So we have to have respect for both of those, that a musician is, music is wonderful to have in our lives. So we don't expect them to do those things that somebody else does with their hands like that might get damaged or something. So, but there's other things. There's things like, say, you know, we have all this things come into our house, and we eat many of these things, but then we have all this stuff that's left over that needs to be thrown away, all this trash, all this garbage. So people need to work to come and take this garbage away. And we put it in bags, we put it in cans, whatever, we put it outside on the curb, and in the morning time, you know, the big trash garbage trucks come through, and the men come through who are taking the trash and they're putting it into the truck, and they take it away and they take it to the incinerator, or they take it to the dump and they dump it and bury it in the ground or something like that. And these people do a very important job. It may seem like it's not important. It may seem like it's a very low-skilled job. It's not like being a musician. It's not like being a carpenter. It's not like being a doctor or something like that. But still, if they stop doing that job, that garbage just starts piling up and piling up and piling up, and it starts smelling very bad, and it makes bacteria, and animals, insects are coming and feeding off of that and everything. It becomes a real health problem. So we have to have respect for the people who are doing those kinds of jobs, sanitation jobs, that are very important to our lives, to our society, to our civilization. So we have to have respect for that. There's another thing. You know, sometimes we have people who do not abide, who do not live within the laws. They want to steal. They want to cheat. They want to take advantage of people. And we need people to come in to protect people's property and people's lives from these people who may be murderers, maybe thieves, taking things that don't belong to them and so on. So the police that come in and take care of these kinds of things, these kind of problems and so on, we have to have respect for them. And most all the police are very good people. They have very good intentions and so on. And they just want to be able to protect, you know, the lives and the property of their community, of people around them and so on. So we have to have respect for them. We know that there are sometimes people that are bad police that do bad things. They have a wrong view. And we have to have patience for them, and we have to have a way to be able to train them to help them to continue doing their jobs, but to do it properly and so on. So training needs to happen. And the people that the police engage with, who are the bad people and need to go to jail, need to go to prisons or something, that they're not just put into a warehouse of a prison and just made to do menial tasks that aren't very helpful to them, but we help them to rehabilitate themselves, to learn useful jobs and responsibility, so that when they're released from prison, that they come back into society and they become a helpful part of society and not recreate their criminal behavior and go back into prison. So we help to rehabilitate them, to train them properly, and so on. So the same thing applies to armies. That there are people, there are nations that have a different kind of an ethic than we have. Some nations feel as though they gotta take people's property, they gotta be able to dominate people, they gotta take all their money and so on like that. All kinds of things happen and so on. And so there are armies that are there to protect us. And if somebody, if some leader, has a very strong desire to want to take somebody's land and property and so on, that people can control that. We try and develop diplomacy. We try and develop the skills to be able to talk to people and be able to understand and compromise about how people can work together and so on, and we don't have these kinds of conflicts. So we have to have respect for the people that are the diplomats, people that are the armies, and people that do these things when they're doing good things. When they're doing bad things, we need to recognize that, and we need to be able to come together as society and be able to explain their positions to all people, and so all people understand. So all this is the right livelihood. This is all interconnected, all people working in a society and a civilization to help each other, to work with each other, to bring peace for each other, and to allow everybody to enjoy their time, their free time, and their working times in their environments and so on. I'm going to stop for just a moment. Milarepa, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask at this particular time?
Thank you. Everything was perfect, crystal clear, and and I think Buddha is very good scientist. He saw the problem and he found the solution, and we really appreciate that. And your comment is very expressive. Thank you. Everything.
Thank you very much. Okay, so then we'll continue on. And yes, the Dharma is the teaching of the Buddha. And the Buddha, we all have this Buddha nature. And the genius of Buddha Shakyamuni, who lived 2,600 years ago, who introduced this all to us, was a genius to be able to put this all together as a system, the Dharma system. The Dharma is the teaching of the Buddha, and so on. So for him to be able to put this all together, and then for us to come along and be able to recognize this as great value and a great system in which way to live, is a very good thing to be able to do, to appreciate that and to continue the teachings to our children and to our neighbors and to our friends and so on like that, that we all treat each other as Buddhas. We recognize that we all have this nature. Some of us have a higher degree of intelligence. Some of us have a higher degree of ability to do things and so on. And we respect all of that. We are all different in our ways, and we love each other, and we have compassion for each other, and we enjoy each other, and we see each other as being all equal, as all being the same. We have different ways, but at the same time, we're all the same. So this is the fundamental teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma, and this Eightfold Path is giving us a model, is giving us a framework in which to be able to analyze, to be able to evaluate our lives and see how we can make adjustments, where we need to make adjustments, because we go through changes and so on. So back to the Eightfold Path. So now we come to number 6, which is right effort. So the right effort means that the diligence, that we're constantly moving forward, that we're constantly, trying to not just remain lazy and get lazy or start going backwards, but we're always moving in a forward direction. We're always enriching ourselves. We're always increasing our knowledge, increasing our ability to be able to help other beings and so on. So this effort should always be with cultivating wholesomeness, not creating negativity or confusion or suffering. Wholesomeness, doing things that are pure, doing things that are happy, doing things that are satisfying, and so on. One of the things that we don't realize, that we don't see, is that being a mean person, doing nasty things, sometimes can seem like a lot of fun. When we're teenagers in particular, teenagers are testing everything. And sometimes they become, unwholesome. They test things. They test the laws. They test the police department. They test their parents. They test each other and so on. And so they're doing unwholesome things, and they're laughing, and they're maybe, starting to drink and having fights with each other and stealing things from each other and doing all these things. And we find out that it's these things, these unwholesome things, that seem like fun, but they cause great suffering. And they can cause great suffering for the whole rest of their lives and so on. And so we need to be able to correct ourselves as soon as we can. And when we recognize that we're doing negative things and we change, we start doing wholesome things. Now, the thing about doing wholesome things, it may not seem as much fun, because when we're teasing other people, we're taking advantage of things for other people, it attracts a certain, desire within ourselves to take advantage of people. It puts a wedge between us and other people. And then we start laughing at them and taking advantage of them and so on. And that's not wholesome. So we need to be able to relax. We need to be able to enjoy ourselves. And that being our fun, that being our enjoyment, to enjoy maybe developing different hobbies, learning how to do different things. If we're a carpenter, and I said before, that musicians want to protect their hands. Well, maybe a carpenter would like to be a musician. So they start to learn how to play the piano or play the guitar or play the saxophone or whatever instrument they want to play, to learn how to do music. But they do it in a way that takes care of their hands so that they're not destroying their ability to be able to be a carpenter, but at the same time that they learn how to be a musician and so on. So we see that we can find enjoyable things to occupy our time, our leisure time, rather than doing nasty things and so on like that. So this right effort that we're doing these things to change, we're doing these things to develop mindfulness and to develop wholesomeness. This mindfulness is awareness, is recognizing all the things that we're doing, to recognize this Eightfold Path as a structure to be able to build our lives on. So it's a framework to build our lives on, that has all these features to it, so that we're interconnected with each other like this effort. And this effort is a noble effort, is something that you can be proud of, and that you're helping your children and neighbors and friends and so on like that, that they are being supported by your helping them in every way that you can. And maybe it's taking the kids out to the park or something like that and playing ball with them, teaching them, showing them how to do different things, going for walks with them out in the woods or at the beach, doing different things and so on, finding ways to engage with other people to cultivate this wholesomeness, this purity, having a system. So the next one is the right mindfulness, the right thinking, this mindfulness. This is the awareness of the Dharma in the body, speech, and mind. So the Dharma, a Dharma is a Sanskrit word that means a pathway. From getting from one point to another point, there's a way to do it. So if you're a musician, there's a pathway, of being a piano player and learning how to read music and play the music. Maybe it's a guitar player, maybe it's a drummer, all these different instruments that you can play. There's a pathway for that. A carpenter has a pathway, how you cut wood, how you put it together and so on, and make sure that it's straight and all these different things. There's a system by which you do all that. So this Dharma, these Dharmas are very important, and they're common Dharmas. But there is the Buddha Dharma. The Buddha Dharma is the Dharma of the way to live an enlightened life, a way to live a liberated, leisurely, happy, relaxed, peaceful life. This is the Dharma. So this mindfulness includes all the things that we need to do at a practical level to make our money, to be able to live, to build houses and do all the things that we've talked about. But there also is a morality, there also is a spirituality, that to be mindful of that we are part of something. We are part of something that we can't really conceptualize. We can't say what it is. But when we experience it, we say, oh, that is pure love. That is pure compassion. That is pure joy and pure equanimity. That is what it is to be a complete human being. Not only can I do all these other things, these practical things, but now I can live my practical life in this sense of being connected with all beings. So I have this sense, this ability, this recognition of being able to live with our body, our speech, and our mind as being all connected in this spiritual way, this vibration that penetrates all beings, this all-pervading wisdom, this all-pervading understanding. Before I talked about the all-pervading suffering, well, the all-pervading suffering is what is going on, and we can recognize that as all-pervading wisdom, not to allow ourselves to wallow, to get into the suffering aspect of that, but to get into the enjoyment aspect of that, to be able to recognize that we have this dualistic nature, this dualistic body and so on, and that we are engaging in this pure nature through our heart. If it feels right in our heart, we have our physical body and we have feelings with that. We have our brain and we have feelings with that, our emotions and so on like that. But we also have our heart mind. And our heart mind is the big mind. This is the little mind. This is where the emotions come from. And this is where our natural state, this is our true nature, the heart mind, this love, to be able to recognize heart thoughts, to be able to recognize compassion, to be able to recognize loving kindness here in our heart. We can feel that in our heart in a way that you can express, you have to experience it, to enjoy it, to understand it, and so on. But, great poets and great writers try and write about what this love and this compassion is and so on, but it's something that we can all feel, something that we all experience and so on. This up here is the ego. This up here is the identity that wants to block this up, block our heart, mind, our true nature up for our selfishness, for our self-benefit, and so on like that. And that becomes a confusion. So our right mindfulness is giving us the ability to be able to take this apart, to be able to see our life, to see our behavior, to see our resolve, to see our view, to see all the pieces of the Eightfold Path, and make sure that they're all working together properly and so on, that they're all not working against each other, but they're working for the benefit of each other. These right views, the Eightfold Path, and so on. So this is the awareness of the Dharma in the body, speech, and mind, so that we have a purpose, we have a mindfulness, we have a method that we're living in our life, a person, a motivation that we're doing in our lives for the benefit of others. Remember, it's do no harm, do only good deeds, be of benefit to other beings. So this is speaking of that Dharma, of that body, speech, and mind. That we got a physical body of peace, we have an intellectual mind of peace, and we have a heart of peace, of love, of compassion, etc. So right mindfulness of putting this all together, realizing that we have 1/3 physical, 1/3 intellectual, 1/3 mental. So we should we should always be looking at that. So now, the last of the Eightfold Path is called the right concentration. And this is the absorption into the Dharma, the absorption into this true nature, and that our body, our physical body, our intellectual mind, and our heart are all working together as like a container that contains all these other elements, the right view, the right resolve, the right speech, the right conduct, the right livelihood, the right effort, the right mindfulness, the right concentration, all of this all coming together as a organized machine that is moving in a very effortless way, in a peaceful way, in a happy way, all together. And so this right concentration, sometimes we need to have a little bit more physical energy. Sometimes we have to have a little bit more intellectual energy. Sometimes we have to have a little bit more spiritual energy. So we're 1/3 this, 1/3 that, and so on, but sometimes it needs to be, well, it's 2/3 this, and it's 1/3 that, or it's half of a third, and so on like that. So we have to recognize through our mindfulness, through our understanding, when we have to make little adjustments, little changes, and then we get back to our balance, to our evenness, and so on. So all this is being done through this right concentration of things and being able to learn how to adapt all of this. So this is an introduction to the Eightfold Path. This is something that we go over many, 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 many times, over and over again, and your contemplations and your meditations should always be rooted in the Four Noble Truths and this Eightfold Path, which is the fourth. So, in order to help us to understand, to remember this, it's said that when the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived 2,600 years ago, when he attained enlightenment, that spontaneously these great signs happened. These great signs came to be. In us, as we develop our realization that we are Buddha, these signs begin to happen. And these signs have a description in the Eightfold Path to help us remember this. So if we look at the page that we're looking at on the book here, page 26, you see these 8 auspicious symbols. So these 8 auspicious symbols, the first one at the top left-hand side are 2 fish. So these 2 fish come together. And the fish, as you know, swimming in water. And our illustration, our idea that this ocean of suffering that we live in, this water of suffering that we live in, and so on, is like our imprisonment. And these 2 fish are together representing our dualistic nature. You know, that we're always looking at the relative. This is good, this is bad, this is black, this is white, this is up, this is down. All these dualisms that we live in and so on are typical human behavior in our true nature as human beings, but as our enlightened selves, that those 2 dualities, those 2 things come together and they blast them, they swim, they jump out of the water. And their fins, the fish, their fins are like feathers. They're very fine, and they're like feathers, and they can fly. Flying fish that jump out of the water and now can fly in the freedom of the atmosphere, of the air. So they're like liberated. So this is like the right view. Freedom from the ocean of suffering. Flying about, going in any direction they want to, completely free. So this is a metaphor. This is an analogy of what our spirit is like, jumping out of the water, being free. These 2 fish. The right view, freedom for liberation, for enlightenment. The next one, the next sign is an umbrella or a parasol. And that is like the right resolve. The resolve becomes your protection. So it's like carrying an umbrella to protect you from all the different things that are happening in our lives, all the different confusions, all the different calamities, all the different things that are raining down on us or coming down that are so strong, like sometimes the sun's rays are so strong, we need to have a protection. We need to have an umbrella. We need to have a parasol. So this parasol and this emblem represents that protection that the Dharma provides for us, that this perseverance for enlightenment, this work that we're always doing. We always have to be protecting. We always have to be on guard. We always have to be looking for something that may be a danger to us. Excuse me. Then the next one down is a conch shell. A conch shell is like a horn, and this horn, we sound this horn as a victory. So it's like spiritual warriors that when they are coming down in a procession, in a parade, that the sound that the front people are blowing these horns, making these so people can hear and see, here comes the procession, here comes the Eightfold Path, here comes the purity, here comes the truth, here comes the speech, here comes the reality of all of this is coming to us. So it's announcing, it's pronouncing the truth is the horn, is the conch shell, it's called. It's a nautilus shell. It's a fish, or not a fish, but it's a sea animal, and inside you can blow in there and make a loud noise like a horn. So this is announcing the truth, announcing here comes the truth. So that's the next of the eightfold path. So the one now on the column, the left-hand side, the last one, the bottom one, is a flower. It's a lotus flower, a Padma flower. And that lotus flower represents right conduct, right behavior. So the lotus flower is a special flower because it grows from a seed that falls into a pond, into a very slow-moving body of water. You could say an ocean is fine, but it's a seed that goes into the bottom, and all other kinds of things fall into the bottom of this pond. All kinds of decaying matter, dead animals, dead insects, dead trees, dead, all decomposing in the bottom of this pond. And you wouldn't want to go in there with bare feet and reach down and pull up this mud and pour it all over you, because it's got all this bacteria and it smells bad and it looks bad and everything. So you wouldn't want to do that. But the seed falls in there too. And all this decaying matter then becomes food for the seed. When the seed opens up, and now a sprout comes out, a long stem comes out and goes all the way up through the water and breaks through the surface of the water. And then when it gets up into the air, then the stem then becomes the flower. And the flower is the lotus flower. And the lotus flower is beautiful and is completely unstained by the defilements that became the food for this beautiful flower to come. So the flower is like, this is the beautiful, glorious nature of being a holy being. So from that seed, from that defilement, we all come from that seed. We all come from that defilement. And then we break the surface of the water and we become this beautiful flower. So this is an illustration of right conduct, that our behavior becomes that flower. Our behavior is that flower. This is what people see. When people say, I'm not going to believe what you say to me, I'm going to believe what I see you do. So this is to that point. You can tell me whatever you want, and I may believe you. I'm going to try and believe you, but I'm going to see what you actually do. I'm going to see your conduct. That's what I'm really going to believe. So this is the Padma flower, the lotus flower, that shows that beauty despite the fact that it came from defilement, from the bottom of the pond. So now we go to the next column, and we to the right-hand side, and that image there is a knot. And it's like a knot that's interconnected with each other. So all the different strands of the knot are interconnected with each other. And this is symbolic of the right livelihood. They were all interconnected with each other, like an eternal knot, or an endless knot, it's called. It's all interconnected, and we just can't live by ourselves. You know, we can do it for a short time, but not for a long time. And if we do it for a time, it becomes a lonely experience, and we get selfish, and it's easy to get confused and so on. But when we're interconnected with our society and so on, we share, there's much happiness, we share our difficulties, we help each other and so on like that. So we are part of a endless society of interconnectedness, of beings coming together and working together and helping each other and so on. So this is the right effort, the right livelihood to do all this, that this is how we succeed as human beings, by all working together, by being connected with each other, not by separating ourselves. Then the next emblem is a flag. This is a big banner, a big flag. So this is like when we have a long parade, and at the beginning of the parade, you got the guys blowing the horns, but you also have the guys who are carrying the flags. And this is symbolic of what it is that they do, of their wholesomeness. The flag represents who they are. It becomes a symbol. Say, oh, here come the heroes. Here come the great beings. Here come those who have conquered all the negativity, all the confusion and so on. These are the conquerors. These are the wisdom, compassionate beings and so on. Announcing their purity and so on. So this is the right effort. This is the effort. Here we are. We're coming to show you this perseverance. We're cultivating this work. We've done this, and we're going to help you to do this and so on. So this is the banner. This is the flag of the noble ones. So then the next emblem is the third one down on the right-hand side, and is a wheel. This is a chakra wheel. The chakra means a wheel, and it's divided with 8 spokes. And the 8 spokes of the wheel is like this Eightfold Path. And this is the right mindfulness. This is bringing everything together, in the mind, in the consciousness, in the understanding, in the mindfulness, understanding all of this. This is the awareness of the Dharma, the mind coming together. This intelligent mind coming together with this heart mind. So the brain mind coming together with the heart mind, and the mind now becoming a completely a completed human being, not just a physical being, but or an intellectual being, but also a heartfelt being. So this is the right mindfulness. So this wheel is showing this Eightfold Path, and it's showing that it's always turning. It's always changing. It's always moving, and and the change is always a good change. It's always a positive change. It's moving forward. It's like a sphere. It moves in all directions and so on. And so this mind, this wheel, this chakra wheel. Chakra means the wheel is very good. Is the 8 elements of the Eightfold Path, which is the cessation. Remember, this is the cessation to the causes of suffering. It's how we cut through the suffering, so that the emotions, we don't hold on to them. They become resilient, and we're able to let them go. We're able to cut through them. So now the last one, the last emblem here, the sign, is a vase. A vase like a flower vase, a treasure vase. And this treasure vase is holding all of this all together. It's our physical body, it's our intellectual mind, it's our spiritual heart, all together, all within this body. When we say the body is like the temple of God, and that all of this is all present, this is God, this is the nature, this is everything is all together here. This is the right concentration. This is how all holding all these things together. The mind is being aware of it. This vase is being the container of it. So these are the 8 auspicious symbols. So as we are developing our awareness of all this, we recognize these 8 emblems, these 8 signs that manifest one by one, bit by bit. We begin to recognize them. Or it all can happen at one time. And we recognize all this comes to being. I said before that we go through phases of our lives, and it's like going through births and it's going through deaths. And so when we do meditation, when we come in and do a meditation, we're coming in as a human being who has had a whole bunch of experiences, a whole bunch of thoughts, a whole mindfulness of what it is, and so on like that. And we sit down on a cushion or in a chair. We sit down and we begin to do our meditation practice. And all of a sudden, we kind of transcend all that we brought in, all that we thought we were, everything that we brought in. We transcend all of that. And then we have a meditative experience where we are experiencing that pure nature that is indescribable, that pure love, that pure peace. We experience that, and it changes us. And now we come back into our physical body again, and now we've changed. We're not the same person that we were when we came in and sat down. Now we are changed. Something new has happened to us by way of the meditation. So in this way, that old person that came in and sat down is dead. That person is gone. Now a new person is born. A person who has all that understanding, all that knowledge from before, but now is seeing it, recognizing it in a different light, in a different way, because of the meditation. So now that person is like reborn, a different person now. And they get up off the cushion and they go about doing all their work and all the things that they do, but they do it by way of that new experience that they had. So in this way, a meditation is a death and a rebirth. So we go through this process many times because this death and rebirth, it may be with us very strong right now, but in a few minutes it may go. Maybe tomorrow it goes. Maybe the next day it goes. So we do it again to refresh it, to get it to be stronger, to get it to be broader, to get it to be deeper, to get it mean more things and so on, to get it so that it becomes our way of thinking that is not temporary. It becomes the way that we stabilize our being a human being, a complete human being, as being a physical body, an intellectual body, and a spiritual body. So so we recognize that we're going through this process so that when our body does die, or our physical body dies and everything, and the physical body goes, the intellectual mind goes, but that spiritual body is released. And that is released into all this space, into our true nature, and we become liberated from this world. And then we take that with us, and then if we are reborn into this world, then we come back with the experience of all of this, and we come back and we begin to help all beings now with having experienced this death and now being reborn into being a human being. And now we have another cycle of life to go through to be able to help other beings. So these are the Four Noble Truths. So I hope this helps. And Milarepa, do you have any other comments?
Thank you all commentary. It is very helpful. And I thought 8, right concentration, it is not a coincidence because we should first to prepare our mind stream clean and prepare for meditation. It is very systematic, I think. And
Symmetrical?
systematic.
Or systematic, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my pronouns.
No, that's correct.
Uh,
It's a system.
yeah, exactly. And we should first have a good concentration. We should first gain, I think, the awareness around us. Yeah, we should observe what is suffering around us. If we watch around us very very good, we're gonna see every moment many people they're not happy, they're unhappy because suffering, we have pleasure sometimes, and after that suffering comes. It is a cycle, and this is very good method and system, I think. It is, it looks like simple, but it is very profound. We should contemplate, I think, every day, and we should look at our lives, how we live, why I'm getting angry sometimes. We should root cause because we created something. Maybe we say we said somebody lie, and it becomes conflict. Many things after that comes. uh, it is very actually good instructions if we can apply. It's, how can I say, it changed our life, I think. Not too far, too short.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very good summation. Thank you very much. And here is a statue of Milarepa. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
In body, speech,
Speech
and
and
mind.
mind.
Yes, Milarepa. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now
We
we'll
appreciate it.
do our dedication prayer.
Yes.
So, Milarepa, will you recite the dedication prayer on page 36 and 37, please?
Okay. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams, and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions.
Please.
Please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in it 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sharavaka or Pratyeka. May all Mother Sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, and
obstruct,
mine, abstractors who harm, misleading Maras,
and
and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body,
speed,
speech,
and
and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my, may my mind stream be mastered by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. And through that, may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinite of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life.
torment,
May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hong, Om, Ah, Hong,
all,
Om, Ah,
all,
Hong.
may
May my body,
speech
speech,
and
and
mind,
mind become inseparable with the body, speech,
and
and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings.
thank you very much, Milarepa. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody who is viewing this on YouTube, and I hope to see you again soon. So please stand by. I'm going to stop the recording now.